Good morning to you. Good morning. Obviously, we'll start in a couple of minutes. Good morning to you. Turn that off. This is obviously an unusual time. We don't broadcast at this time. We broadcast on Thursday evenings at 9 Central Standard Time. But wanted to set this special time up to gauge this particular subject. I shouldn't have to say this to grown people, but let me just say, as people kind of start tuning in here, this is a grown person's page. I'm of age. Been mature for a minute. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We're live as you typed, sir. We are live. So I'm a grown person. I like to think I'm mature, so we can have mature conversations about tough subjects. But if you struggle with that, this subject makes you laugh like a little boy, a little girl. You still get nervous when you see the word sex, or you read it, or hear it, or say it to yourself. Then by all means, just sit back and watch grown folks do what we do. For those who have some disagreement with me, I welcome disagreement. By all means, share in the comment section your disagreement. I'll be glad to, as I'm able to, respond. But if you attack me in any way, clearly just go ahead and delete yourself. Then I'll delete your comments when I'm done. We got to do this, and I broadcast a lot. I know people who broadcast fairly regularly. And you just got to do this. You got to say all this kind of stuff. I wasn't even going to do it, but I have to do it. So that's it. It's my page, on and on and on. If you don't want to see it, don't get the notifications. Just don't follow me, and you won't get a notification that I'm broadcasting. And please don't even come at me with the whole "you're a preacher, pastor" stuff, because you're not going to get a favorable response. I can assure you. That said, let's talk about sex, shall we? Now, how I'm going to frame this so that we can have a reasonable, logical conversation, and my agenda doesn't change. The hope is that you'll walk away from this going, I never thought about that. Or, that makes sense to me. Or, I disagree with that. And these are the reasons why. I don't have a problem with disagreement. I have a problem with lack of self-awareness in disagreement. Here's what I mean. People will go, I don't think so. I don't think that's true. Well, why you say that? I just don't think it's true. I don't think it's true because I just don't think it's true. Or I disagree just because I disagree and I'm grown and I can disagree. Sorry, that stuff irks me. Keep that to yourself. I don't have a problem with disagreement. I have a problem with people not laying some stuff out for me, just, okay, I disagree, and here are my reasons. Research says, or based on how I was raised, or I've experienced these things, Gabe, I disagree because I disagree. Wow. And I just really disagree. I mean, you move your arm like this, you go like Popeye the Sailor Man. I disagree. I don't care how loud you get, because trust me, I can get louder than you. I promise you, I'll crack a window in this piece. So volume don't bother me. You're not going to scare me because you can get loud. Or you can retreat and I'll shut down on you. And I've been through all that with people, and that stuff don't bother me. So if this subject makes you nervous, just lay back and be cool, be quiet. Don't say nothing to anybody, because you're nervous. Like, oh, Gabe said sex. Oh, Jesus. Oh, you already praying. You pulling out your holy water. You got your Bible. Oh, going to the scriptures. I got to read. Oh. And I got some people on my page. Look, I've known these people for 20, 30 years. They know my parents. They already calling my parents. Do you know your son is on Facebook right now talking about sex? Like my parents are going to see me or come all the way to Louisiana and slap me or something. It's not going to happen. So calm down, especially those of you who've known me for decades, or at least known of me. Breathe. Everybody breathe. Now, Gabe, what's your qualifications to talk about this? I've been married 3 times and I got an 11-year-old son. So I'm familiar with the topic and the action that adjoins it, okay? But I'm not here to have a conversation about what you like, what you don't. We're not here to talk about that. That's for you and your boo. That's not for me to talk about. I want to talk about 2 major aspects that have an impact on something that is supposed to be between, technically, 2 people, preferably a man and a woman, but we'll leave that to be for the moment. And we all know this to be true, but we don't really talk about it. Here's 2 major influences on something so intimate as sex: money and politics. Just let your brain, we got to talk about it, because we don't talk about the truth that politics and money have gotten attached to something as intimate as sex, and for many, 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 many people, it has ruined it. Politics and money have found its way into something private and personal and intimate, good or bad. I'm not here to discuss that. I'm not here to discuss that. That's your business. I was raised to believe there are some things that are private. The subject of sex is not private, but the action of sex should be private. That's between you and whoever you're dealing with. But the subject is not private. It's a subject. We can talk about it. As a matter of fact, let me back up one step and say this. Why are we still struggling in 2021 to have reasonable, logical conversations about sex? Like, why is that still difficult? Now, I've been single for years, and I have had conversations over these years. I've had legitimate kind of stuff I'm going to talk about today. I've had conversations, just, so what do you think? And, what are your reasons? And I've been able to have, and I must say, I've met some wonderful, wonderful, wonderful women over the years, and we've been able to have some actual conversation, not nonsense. And I'm just trying to be careful here, but just conversation, where you share opinions and feelings and sentiments, and you give a little historical perspective, and Gabe, this is where I come from. Okay, I understand that, and yes, men this and women this, and actual conversation. Conversation. The subject is not taboo, right? I've actually had conversation, and we didn't go off into some explicit nonsense. Just, well, what do you think? So I am a person, people ask me, Gabe, what do you like to do for fun? And I go through this whole elaborate discussion. And when it comes to me interacting with people of the opposite sex, or even other grown people, men, I like to have conversation. That's like a pastime for me. I enjoy great conversation. I call this broadcast Let's Chat. You can make comments in the comment section, and if I see them in the flow, I'm going to respond to them. I like discussion. It's something I enjoy doing. And I don't like just discussing frivolous topics, things that, how's that weather? Okay, that's how you introduce the conversation. Let's get into some stuff. Let's talk about some stuff. So this is a subject that, as grown people, but unfortunately even as young people, it's a subject that we really need to be comfortable with. My hope is by the end of this, especially if you have children who are coming of age, or grandchildren coming of age, or guardianship, that you will get comfortable. So the first thing, let me say, before I get back to politics and money, is, now obviously these people have passed away, right? Who in the world came up with birds and bees, which don't have sexual intercourse, and storks bringing babies? How uncomfortable, let me prove my point. How uncomfortable was that generation who said the best way to talk about sex with your children who are blossoming is to call it birds and bees who don't have intercourse, and Where do babies come from? A stork. That's me. Okay, I'm sorry. So, but it just boggles my mind that somebody, who knows how long ago, 100 years, 200 years, who knows, decided that the best way to address the sexual conversation with their children and the baby conversation was to call it birds and bees, and babies come from a stork. Like, oh, were you? I'm just saying, like, who came up with that? My son and I are not going to have a birds, bees conversation. We're not going to have cats, dogs. We're going to talk about human beings. We're not going to talk about birds and bees. We're going to, because they don't have sexual intercourse. And babies don't come from storks or any other, it comes out of mama. Okay? So, just foolishness. Anyway, sorry. Okay, back to the topic. So the reality of it is, the issue with sex is not sex necessarily, though we can have a whole topic on that. It is politics and money. Now, let me just say to the money issue, that's a beast, right? One of the oldest professions, we've all heard this, is prostitution. So sex and money have been connected for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And Gabe is not going to even try, to figure that out, right? Birds and bees, that's nonsense. Storks, that's garbage. But the money and sex thing, in other words, industry, the industry of sex has been around for thousands, tens of thousands, depends on how old you think the earth is. But the fact is, since sin came into the world, at some point prostitution emerged, and I'll give you some general idea if you're curious about it. Basically, and I say this respectfully, men, but you know me, I don't pull punches. Women in most societies, going back to ancient days, were displaced. They were not allowed to work. If you weren't allowed to work, you can't eat. I mean, literally, you can't provide for yourselves. So the poorest person in any community, even to this day, tends to be women and, of course, ultimately children. So because women tend to be put marginalized in communities for thousands and thousands of years, they had to figure out how to make money. Well, because men want access to sex, generally speaking, over thousands and thousands of years, because men wanted to be able to access sex without marital responsibility, then an industry you can see can be birthed out of that. So you want sex? Yes. I need money. Now I'm dumbing it way down, I'll be honest. But if you just kind of think about it, the position women have held in most societies, most human societies for thousands of years, is literally second-class citizens, and in some cases slaves. So you take a strong-willed woman who says, I'm not going to be anybody's slave, but I can't make money legitimately in this society because it's literally built in a way. I'm not justifying prostitution. I'm just telling you that unfortunately, in most cases, in most societies where women were not allowed legitimate, and even if she tried to just sell little goods, try to sell things that she would make with her own hand, it may not prove to be equitable. It may not prove to be enough to be able to take care of her children, her aging parents, herself, etc. So unfortunately, by really just trying to survive, nowadays that might not be the case in America. But you could go to other countries to this day where women are still marginalized, and you will find that industry ends up being one that you could get into, and low class and upper class and all this kind of thing I'm not getting into all of that. I'm just telling you that is a really general way of understanding how women in particular, that was an industry that became one they could get into because men said, I have needs. I may be married, but I have needs. My wife doesn't meet my needs. And so I go and pay whoever. And it became a service. And it's not I'm not saying it in a positive way or a non-positive way, excuse me. I'm just simply saying, so thousands and thousands of years ago, money and sex created an industry. So I'm not here to try to break into that discussion. I'm just presenting it because it is on my list. I think we have to say it and then move on. Politics, however, I don't mean just politicians, but politics meaning rules, laws, governance. That's a different issue. And while money does play into politics, as we know, here's the thing. So you have gender identification politics. You have all kinds of things. Women in men's spaces. And some of that has a sexual overtone to it. For example, go back to what George Bush, son, don't ask, don't tell, right? Excuse me. And we know some of the things that happen in those spaces, rapes and other things that was happening in those spaces. What's fascinating to me is that there is this notion, there is this idea, once you take sex outside of the bedroom or outside of between a man and a woman or between two people, once you move sex out into the social media sphere, now you have to regulate it. See what I'm saying? So the moment sex starts moving outside of a bedroom, even if it's a prostitution situation, the moment you move sex from just two people interacting or whatever the case may be, to conversation, to posts, to talking at your job, to whatever to commercials, to shows, to websites and apps. And the moment you do that, then you bring other people in. Watch this. And now listen to me carefully. The moment you start sharing what you do in your bedroom with someone else, there is a need for regulation. Why, Gabe? Because you are inviting others, or we are inviting others. The moment you share with your girl, right? You know her since pre-K. I mean, y'all been friends. Y'all slept in the same crib. Y'all took baths together. Y'all parents traveled together. Y'all got married to your special men. At the same time, y'all had a joint wedding. Y'all raised your kids together. And every time you have a discussion, every time you present what happens in your bedroom, whether by your mouth, by your photos, because that's communicating something, by your videos, by your live broadcast, however you choose to do it, the moment you do that, that requires regulation. Because there are others in our communities who may or may not want to consume that. Get where I'm going? So even the topic of sex has to be discussed because of this truth. Because the fact is, my grandparents' generation who said you keep that in your bedroom, well, the fact is it's not in our bedrooms anymore. The fact is it hasn't been in the bedroom exclusively since the rise of camera phones and social media. It hasn't been simply left in bedrooms since people could stand in water coolers and have conversations. This subject of sex has to be discussed because the fact is we are demanding Facebook, we are demanding YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok, and all others to regulate on the basis of our perception of this subject. We are demanding, no, Gabe, I'm not demanding, I just turn it off. No, you are demanding, especially if you have children, especially if you have grandchildren, especially if you are conscious. Oh, I'm getting tired of seeing that ad. Oh, I'm getting tired. So sex and sexuality is something that has been around because that's how we all got here. That's how we all got here. But the fact is, that it is now widespread before our eyes, in our ears. We cannot dismiss it outright. Because sex, in terms of sexual intercourse, is not just what it is, right, ladies? It doesn't start there, right? It starts here. And if what you're saying to me and ladies is true, that sex is as much mental as it is physical, that's why there has to be discussion. Because I agree with you. Sex is not just physical, it's mental. And because sex is mental, that means all of our senses have to play a role. Not just the physical body, but our ears, what we hear as little girls and little boys. See, birds and bees, you didn't think I could work it in? Birds and bees make no sense. It is evasive. You're not even wanting to deal with the subject. Let me show you how deep this is. You don't think this is important? So now a friend of mine sent me a text. I won't talk about that, but it got me interested and curious. So I looked it up. I posted an article. Not too many people responded to the article, but make no mistake, there are 57. One article said 57. Another article said 58 different gender identifications. 58 different gender identifications. You don't think that matters to you? Do you have children? Do you have grandchildren? That means my son, who's 11 and won't graduate from pre-K to 12th grade for another 6 years, has to deal with the fact he may be going to school at some point and have to have a conversation and interaction in his classroom with someone who identifies themselves sexual gender with any one of 58 identifications. That's politics. Gabe, that's not politics. Yes, it is, because the teenagers who are driving the creation of these genders, believe it or not, the teenagers who are being used by these adults that I won't even talk about today because that'll just make me mad, by these adults who are using them to drive these discussions and these identifications, are doing so because of the political agenda, because they assume you and I won't say anything to a teenager. But there are adults and there are politicians that are big time money. I'm back to money again. So money and politics, you cannot get away from it. I don't care what you say, even in your bedroom. Even in your bedroom, you may have somebody who will look at you and go, I am of any one of 58 identifications. Any one of 58 gender identifications. And now remember, here's money. Do I divorce this person? Well, that's going to cost me hundreds of dollars if I divorce them. And what's going to be the basis of my divorce? Because they just told me they're pansexual? Because they just told me they're bisexual? Because they just told me they're transgender? Because they just told me they're, and I didn't know that when we got married? Now you have to consider you're going to divorce them, but what are you going to look like as a person who now, because you don't want to have sex with a person who has got 22 gender identifications, and now you have to go and try to get a divorce, and it's going to cost you not only money, but you're going to get blasted on social media. Somebody's going to find out that you're divorcing them and you don't feel bad for them because they're just trying to be their real self. And politics is going to join them. It's not going to join you if you haven't been paying attention. So politics and money, I haven't even got to religion. I haven't even brought in religion and sex. So you understand this is some extremely deep, intricate stuff that most of us keep trying to put our blinders on. We keep trying to say, not my children, not my grandchildren, until they sit you down and say, Grandma, Grandpa, guess what? I'm one of 10 identifications. Now you're sitting there, you was wondering when you were going to have a grandchild. Now you're trying to figure out not only if you're going to ever have a grandchild, but should you have a grandchild? Should your son or daughter or grandson or granddaughter, oh wait, you can't call them that. So you got all this going on, and look, I'm going to say it out loud. I'm going to say it. Now you're sitting there wondering who they're going to have sex with. Yeah, I said it, because they're telling you they identify with 22 different genders. and the politics joins them in their identification. And you bet not speak against them. So now we're not even talking about if you're going to have grandkids. Now you're sitting there wondering if you're going to ever even be able to speak up, if you're going to ever be able to tell them anything about their sex and sexuality. Will you be able to have any conversation with them? Especially, watch this, if they are a teenager. If they are a teenager, politics might stop you from being able to address something as basic as the responsibility of helping your child understand sex and sexuality. Wow. See, you didn't know where I was going to go with this, did you? See, let's have a mature conversation about this. Let's deal with some stuff. Because if you think you're exempt, your children may be heterosexual, which may be taboo now. You may not even be able to, I don't even know if that's politically correct anymore. Your child may be heterosexual, but what if one of their best friends isn't? Let's move away from politics and money for a second. What if one of their best friends isn't? Let's just talk about community. What if one of their best friends that you used to let come to your house, that they played with your child, they slept in the same bed with your child, and all of a sudden now, Mrs. Jenkins, yeah, baby, what you want? What you want, little Johnny? Oh, I'm not little Johnny anymore. I'm Jonetta. And she is 6'4" and more feminine than you are. And little Johnny used to come over and play with your daughter. And now, can you say something to him? Can you ask him any questions? Can you do anything? Because politics, he can call politics on you, and politics can come get you. What are you going to do? See, you don't understand because we don't want to have open conversations because these are too hard. Because, Gabe, I just rather act like these conversations are of no consequence. I don't want to have these conversations, Gabe, but if you've got children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, you've got to have these conversations. Oh, wait a minute. What if you have friends on your job, coworkers? What if you're sitting there and you're looking at something or you're reading something or you say something and it's not politically correct in terms of somebody's multiplicity of genders? You might have to pay. Why? Because politics says there's a law and you broke the law. You defamed their character somehow. Somehow you did something to them and you didn't know about 58 different identifications. Now, I'm just dealing with that at the moment. We could go some other places. That's just gender identification. Okay, what does that have to do with sex? Everything. Because the reason why you speak the way you speak is because you think a man and a woman. So there are certain things that we could talk about as a man and a woman, but you can't talk about as a man and a transgender, as a pansexual and a whatever. See, there are certain things that you can't talk about, but you might be comfortable to talk about, and you thought this was your friend, and you make a comment, and all of a sudden now you're sitting in HR at your job trying to figure out why you're being fired. And you can't figure it out, and you know you're a good worker, and you show up on time, and you better than so-and-so, and you always there, and how did they just fire me? Because now I was trying to get rid of you as a boss, and they just gave me a reason, and I could get rid of you, and I ain't got to tell you nothing. So what did I tell you? The moment sex exits our bedrooms, the moment sex moves away from the individuals involved in it, it can have money and politics and religion and societal dispositions can all of a sudden, the moment sex leaves your bedroom, all of a sudden, now everybody and their mama, because of social media, can get their hands on it. Everybody and their mama. Let me give some cautions. Let me give some cautions. And I know you ain't going to like this. I know you're not going to like it. And I understand. But I recommend that you don't necessarily put your relationships out on social media. I know it's your page. You do what you want. I'm with you. I'm just giving a caution. I don't recommend that you put your relationships out there. Gabe, what are you talking about? What does that have to do with sex? Everything. Because you have to understand when you put your relationship out there, pictures, comments, whatever, cool, that's you. But if you say, yes, me and my man, right? Me and my woman, my lady, oh, God has blessed us with a great love. And you know, God put together, let no man put asunder. You got somebody on your page who is a lesbian or whatever. And they feel like you are throwing your relationship in their face. Now, your notion is just get off my page. I'm with you. But maybe they're a little bit more clever than just getting off your page. Maybe what they start doing is commenting. Maybe what they start doing is pulling in the LGBTQY whatever community onto your page. And they start calling for arms. And so however you present your relationship, they start attacking you from every side. You can delete a few, you can block a few, you can do whatever you want to do. But understand this, if you're not prepared to be able to explain and understand your own situation, is it that bad, Gabe? Yes, I think it is. Because here's why I think the issue exists. Because we start taking what we were doing in our bedrooms and we start bringing it out. And then social media allowed it to skyrocket. We start taking what we were doing in the intimacy of our homes, sitting on our couches and cuddling, just doing us. And we started putting our lives on social media and the sexual implications of a couple. And married couples, you're not exempted. You're not exempted. Don't assume you're exempted now, since people who are same-sex can get married. So you're not exempted anymore. Because what are you going to think when somebody puts their same-sex marriage photos out there? When somebody puts their whatever they identify themselves out there as well. And they're going to want the same level of whatever you get, they want. And maybe your religious disposition, maybe your whatever you consider to be common sense doesn't allow you to accept that. Now you may be like, Gabe, I don't comment. But what happens if one of your children, watch this now, one of your children or one of your grandchildren come into your home and say, hey, mom, yeah, baby, let me ask you something, mom. I saw my friend, I went to his house and we were playing, yeah, and a man came in and kissed my friend's dad. Excuse me? Yeah, you know, my friend that I play with down the road, yeah, a man came in and kissed him. And it's like you and dad. Seriously? Which friend you talking about? This one? The one you play with all the time? Yeah. And you get on the phone, hey man, my son said that he saw you and a man kissing. Yeah, that's my husband. We just got married. Oh, didn't I tell you? We're married now. And he's displaying public affection in front of your child or your grandchild. Politics says you can't say anything. Maybe you need somebody like me to come tell you. You can't say anything. Now, you can tell your son and grandson or your daughter and granddaughter you can't go to their house anymore, but you got some conversation that you got to handle. You got to have some conversation now. You better sit that grandson and granddaughter down, but let me ask you something. What are you going to tell them? See, if you don't want to deal with the subject of sex and sexuality, what are you going to do? What are you going to do when your friend comes out to you? What are you going to do when somebody you used to watch on the Word Network or Daystar or TBN? What are you going to do when your favorite artist? What are you going to do when your favorite actor or actress? What are you going to do when it's in your face and they put their sexuality in your face? Because they're standing there on the Oscars and they're winning an award and their wife comes out and that's a woman. And just like a man and a woman, they greet their spouse with a congratulatory kiss, and now you're sitting there watching that. What are you going to do? Are you going to go tuck your head in the sand and say, hey, man, I'm all about men and women, and I just can't deal with that? What are you going to do? Are you going to just say, well, I know what the Bible says, and then go bury yourself? You need me to come with a shovel? I'll help you. So look, nobody, I don't care what you stand for, none of us can, behind this subject. If you think this subject is just about what happens behind closed doors, where have you been? Pornography doesn't allow you to think that, because pornography is pervasive. Pornography is everywhere. It's on your devices. Every time I even mention to somebody about my son getting a cell phone, oh, you can just see it on their face. Oh, well, you know, oh, be careful now. Be careful. And I'm sitting there going, my son's got a tablet, access to a laptop. Where have you been? My son had a tablet for years. Okay. Yeah, I've had a conversation with my son. A couple of conversations. Why? Because, watch this. Getting access to sexual material. For grown people, laws, agendas. Why do you think I posted the link because I want you to get access to the information. I want you to inform yourself. I want you to not bury your head in the sand. I don't want you to go and hide and just hope it goes away. And you're in your prayer closet. Oh, Lord, please let all this gender stuff go away. It ain't going anywhere because of this. It's not going anywhere because of this. I know you don't like it. I may not like it either. But it doesn't make any sense for us to go tuck ourselves away. I have family members who have come out of the closet and been out of the closet for years. I know people who have told me they've been in marriages, and then all of a sudden, a spouse said, hey, this is how I'm working. What are you going to do? What are you going to say? Are you going to just tell your son and daughter it can't be true? What are you going to do? How are you going to handle it? Because the reality of it is, sex is a real subject. It has been for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It is a real subject. And for too long, we have given up our power. Let me talk about that. I'm almost done. The power of sex is not simply the ability to do it. I'm sorry, fellas. Sorry. The power of sex is not simply the ability to lay down with someone. The power of sex is here. The power of sexuality is here. The power of sexuality is political. The power of sexuality can move nations. Can move nations. People have died behind sexuality. People have been unjustly accused and justly accused behind sexuality. Sex is an industry, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how else to get it over to you. I don't care that you don't want to hear it. Sex is an industry. It's not just happening in bedrooms or in homes, in private spaces. No, it is public. It's happening all around us, all the time. Anybody heard of the Me Too movement? Anybody aware of a man by the name of Cuomo? How about Bill Cosby? How about, come on, look, and I'm talking about millions and millions of dollar settlements. I'm talking about divorce rates through the roof. Infidelity. Divorce rates means money. Gabe, stop saying that. No. Divorce rates are high. Divorce costs money. Where have you been? And depending on where you are, where you live, how much you got, divorce can be thousands, millions of dollars. And if you end up going outside of your marriage and you end up in a divorce court, that's money, because it ain't just the spouse that's going to get some money. No, the court is going to get court fees. The lawyer is going to get his percentage or her percentage. Everybody finna make some money. Everybody about to make some money off a failed relationship. You can say whatever you want. This is industry, people. This is money. And you think they care about your teenage sons and daughters? You think they care about our children? No. You think the LGBTQ community really cares? So now we got to get a genderless bathroom. You think they really care? And I'm not trying to be insensitive to the children who have been abused and bullied. I saw a bullying situation just the other day. And you know, my son knows I hate bullying, so I was about to go take care of that. But I saw it being taken care of. I hate bullying. And I am not for any form of bullying, period. Period. However, now we have genderless bathrooms. Some states have adopted genderless bathrooms, which means my son and a young lady can be using the bathroom in the same space. And if you don't think that sexuality is an issue, I worked in a high school. They caught kids, teenage kids, having sex in the stairway. So don't tell me sex and sexuality is not an issue, and that if we're not careful with our money and our politics and this issue of power, that we won't put our vulnerable children in situations where we won't be able to control it, or we'll have to be homeschooling. And for those of you who have children and your kids are still at home because of the pandemic, how you rolling? How you feeling about that? How you feeling about having to literally reorientate your whole life because your kids are home and you are practically homeschooling them? How you feel? So listen. Let me teach you something. Any subject, watch this. Any subject we're dealing with as adults, any subject we're talking about as adults affects our children because it affects us. Yeah. It affects our children because it affects us. It affects our grandchildren because it affects us. They come from us. So if we don't speak openly and candidly and truthfully and honestly and with some education about drugs, alcohol, politics, sex, if we don't talk openly and candidly, I don't mean cussing and acting a fool. I mean really nitty-gritty, information-based. If we don't have these kind of conversations, what are we going to communicate directly and indirectly to our offspring? Some of you are old enough to have great-grandchildren. What are you communicating to them when they say, I got an announcement, and you cuss them out? What do they do when you shut them out of your life and I'll never talk to you again? What do you do? I mean, what do you want them to do? You are leaving them vulnerable. You are leaving them open to the world to run them over. I'm not saying agree with them. I'm not saying that you have to condone it. I'm not saying that you have to cheer it on and do a coming out of the closet party. What I'm saying is get educated. Understand some things. Let me shift from gender. Let's go to abortion. Because who is abortion targeting? Teens. Do your research. The ones having abortion more than anybody are not grown women. They are teenagers. And notice, no disrespect, but Planned Parenthood, or however you call it, they are targeting your teen girls. They are targeting your teens, targeting them. And one of the things that they are encouraging is for teens who barely understand how to carry their life to be able to have an abortion, to murder a child and don't have to tell your parents. Now, what does this have to do with sex? What do you think? So if I'm a 16-year-old girl and I got a 16-year-old, 15, 18-year-old boyfriend and I don't want him to leave me and he keeps pushing me like a jerk would do and suggest that I'll leave you if you don't have an abortion, and she can't talk to you because you don't want to have the conversation because you believe that conversation ain't supposed to happen until she's 27. And so you don't want to talk to her. So now she goes out, gets pregnant, finds out she's pregnant, he says, hey, I'm a bounce. So she goes and gets an abortion. And the whole thing is messed up. It's messed up on his end, her end, and your end. And your end. Everybody's jacked up because nobody wants to have a conversation. Nobody wants to be mature enough to sit down and talk about it. What's wrong with us? What's wrong with us that we don't want to sit down and talk? What are we afraid of? What do we think is going to happen? We think people are going to stop having sex? Is that what we think? Is that what we think? I got cousins who had their babies as teenagers. I know what I'm talking about. And then their children had teenage babies as teenagers. I know what I'm talking about. 2, 3 generations of this, because nobody wants to sit down and talk about sex, for which all of these branches come from. Exactly. So we need to talk about sex so we can talk about gender. We need to talk about sex so we can talk about abortion. We need to talk about sex so we can talk about power struggles between men and women. We need to talk about sex. Do you get me now? We need to have a conversation about sex, even with husbands and wives. Gabe, you bet not. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I'm going to do it today. Even with husbands and wives, because you don't want to sit down and talk about your philosophy, your ideology about sex. That's why you see a larger increase with infidelities. Don't tell me about the person who cheated. They're just a cheater. Did you sit down with your husband or your wife and have a conversation? Did you sit down with them and tell them where you are, or did you take some old 1920s attitude that they should just know? If you're still walking around talking about they should just know, it's just common sense. You are backwards. You have buried your head in the sand, and you are doing it on purpose, and I have no sympathy for you whatsoever. It's time to have conversation. It's time to sit down with our husbands and our wives and talk about sex. Don't just do it, talk about it. And don't just talk about what you like and dislike sexually. No, sit down and talk about how you feel powerless when your husband is consuming hours and hours and hours of pornography. Sit down and have a conversation when your wife is over-sexualized with her friends that she goes out with on Friday nights, but you're intimidated and you're scared, fellas, because you don't want to tell her that you think she's dressing a little bit too revealing because that's how she was dressing when you met her. So now you are afraid that if you say something that she's going to go out and do what you're already scared she's doing. Yeah, I said it. I said it. You're already scared she's doing it. And so you see her going with her breasts hanging out. She got on tight jeans. She can't barely breathe in them. And she's going out with women. Half of them are single. And you're scared. You don't want to say nothing. And you know she's over-sexualized. And you can't keep up. So then you just, well, I'll just sit in a corner. I'll just sit in a corner. No, have a conversation. Get down. I'm not saying accuse anybody of anything. I'm saying it's time to sit down and have some conversation. It's time to have some conversation. But we won't do it until we're in divorce court. Till we're in divorce court. We won't sit down and talk about our history. Gabe, you just ain't leaving nothing. I'm talking about everything. How about your history? Men and women. Men, get honest, dog. You done had sex with 4,000 women in your lifetime, and you know you haven't stopped to get some respect for women. And I'm not saying because of the number. I'm saying because you just ran through them like they didn't matter. Like they didn't count. You don't even know their names. You don't even know if they exist. You don't care if they exist. Did you know her name? Did you know his name? Did you know whoever's name? No. It was one after another after another. Hey, you do what you do, but now you want to get married. Now you think you're ready to be exclusive to one, and you didn't even know the names of the last 10. Hello? How you think you're going to be focused on one when you're accustomed to 10 and 20 and 30 and 90? How you think you're going to do that? How you think you're going to do it, man? Psychologically speaking, you don't have the work because you haven't shown any compassion. You don't even know what that is. You don't know what that is to ask a woman about her life, what she's up against, what she's dealing with. I'm not sitting here saying that I don't have a past. What I'm telling you is what I've learned from my past, consuming pornography, what I've learned from engaging sexually in my lifetime. So I got a child, marrying more than one woman in my lifetime. What I've learned is to respect the fact that they're human beings, that they're not pin cushions. Hey, you do what you do, but at least stop for a second and recognize that they're not pin cushions, fellas. They're not. They have hearts and minds and souls and attitudes and aspirations and dreams. Now look, grown people are going to do what grown people do. I get that. I understand that. I'm not here to act like I don't know what's going on in the world. All I'm saying is at least have a conversation. Respect each other's humanity. Now, you may not be a Christian, but I believe God is the reason why we all exist, whether you're a Christian or not. So at least respect the person's existence on the basis that they are here through sex, yes, but they are here and that they are valuable. This is what I mean by power. Because what I've learned in my life and many conversations is, and this is men and women, this is men and women on this one, that there are power plays that people are constantly playing and they're using sex. They're using sex. Let's just call it what it is. Here's an example. The way to a man's heart is through his stomach. So you're going to play a game with the fella by cooking him a dinner and then deciding if you're going to give him a little sex? That's a game. That's a game. That's just as much of a game as a man who takes you out to dinner, right? Well, I pay for your dinner. Those are games. And using sex as the bait and switch, as the carrot on the carrot. Those are games people play. People don't want to have straight up conversation. People don't want to just be real and crystal clear about where they are. They rather play games. And then they get their feelings hurt. And now they mad at the world. And, all men are this, all women are that, all this, people just out there. I've actually heard people say this, but that's why I went the other way. So now you practicing homosexuality, lesbianism because you played a game or because you got into a situation and got your feelings hurt. And it may be real. You may have really got your feelings hurt. I'm not saying you didn't, but you played a game. It didn't work out. So now you just going to go, I'm a dude and I'm going to hang out with dudes. That's what all I'm going to do. I'm a lady and I'm going to just deal with ladies. Like, people don't play games. Whether you heterosexual or homosexual. People play games. And sex, because it's so serious, because it's so powerful, you can create children, you can get STDs, etc., etc. Excuse me, sex is so powerful, you don't want to play games with it. It's powerful. Sex is a powerful thing. Attraction is powerful. So I don't recommend you play games. I say this all the time. Be an adult. I don't have any children on my page. Be an adult. I beg you, be adults. And prove you are an adult. Prove you are mature by having conversation. Conversation. Have a conversation. Hey, before we do this thing, what's up? What you think? What's that about? Have a conversation. And if you choose to do what you choose to do, I'm not getting in your bedroom. If you choose, or your house, whatever, you choose to do, what did I say earlier? Keep it to yourself. That's between you and your partner or whatever that is. But too much is out there. Too much business is in the streets. I'm 47 years old. My parents are 70 and 69 years old, respectfully speaking. And understand, they told me, Gabe, don't put your business in the streets. So as transparent as I am on this broadcast, I'm not getting on here to tell you what happens in my bed behind me. Why? Because I'm inviting politics. I'm inviting all kind of stuff to happen. I'm asking for trouble. And I'm telling you, don't do that. But I'm not just telling you don't put your business in the streets. I'm also telling you, have some conversations in your private space with people that you can trust. I'm telling you, have conversation too. I'm not just telling you just do your thing. I'm saying talk. Express. Ladies, don't just say, I feel. Give some statistics. Wow that dude with your mind. Don't just tell him, I need you to get my mind before you get my body. By the way, don't say that. Ladies, the phrase, if you get my mind, you get my body, or at least try to get my mind so you can get my body, or all that, you do understand there are smart men, right? There are men out there who are intellectuals. Whether you think so or not, I know most of you think we're just stupid and we're just driven by our sexual desire. There are smart men in this world. Men who can have an intellectual conversation with you. And if you go, I'm spatiosexual, right? My mind first. And you empower that man by telling him that the easy access to you sexually is just simply having a stimulus conversation. It doesn't mean he's any less likely to treat you with respect after he has sex with you. So then, now you're sitting there going, man, that was such great conversation. Oh, that was so stimulating. And so then you lay with him. Hey, I'm just being plain. Then you lay with him, and then he does just like everybody else, or what you think everybody else does. Better way to say that. And now you're sitting there going, but we had a smart conversation. What in the world do you think? A man who is after sex will get after sex. A man who's after money will get after money. A man who's after power will get after power. A man who's after a car will get after the car. That's how men are built. So men typically will pursue after whatever the particular thing they want. Whether it's a woman or a car or a job or a power or political position or status or friends or whatever he's after. So for all of you really smart women who keep trying to convince men of how smart you are, cool, be smart. I'm with you. I'm with you. But when you start telling men that they get to have sex with you after they stimulate your mind, you are setting yourself up. I've had conversations with women who said things as like, Gabe, at least take me out to eat first. And I'm like, in my head, I don't say it out loud. Don't get mad. Did you just say that if a man treats you to dinner, he can have sex with you? Are you serious? Like, no, right? No. Please, no. Please tell me that just treating you to dinner because you don't want to just be at the house is all that it takes. A stimulating conversation at dinner and, all right, man, let's go. Huh? No. Now, you do what you do. Again, I'm not here to judge, but understand, don't listen to me carefully. Don't tell men that. If that's what you do, that's fine. But don't say it out loud. Because there are men who, especially if you're hoping that that will lead to something else. Now, if you're cool with that, that's your business. I'm not here to judge. But if you're look, I'm talking to you as a man. Don't literally say to a man that at least treat me to dinner or stimulate my mind, and therefore, because there are men who will do that. They'll just treat you to dinner or stimulate your mind or buy you some whatever. I mean, literally, I've been single for a minute, and I've literally seen on profiles, on sites, at least stimulate my mind. I'm spatiosexual. And I just so desperately want to say, hey, I know you don't know me, but don't do that. Even if it's true, you're just arming men who are very focused on whatever they're trying to do, right? Now we're sexual beings. I get that, right? I understand. I'm not talking about in the general sense. I'm talking specifically about a man who says, I'm going to have sex with her. And then she goes, well, to have sex with me, you got to at least buy me dinner. And he goes, oh, okay, here's dinner. And then when you go, well, no, it takes a little bit more than that, then he's going, what you mean? You told me via your profile, you told me on your social media page, all it takes to have sex with you is this. Wait, it gets worse. Really, Gabe? Yeah. How about just compliments? Come on, man. Come on. Come on, ladies. Come on, men. Look, some are just simply, you just give them a compliment on a picture, on Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and whatever the case may be, whatever you're on. You just give them a compliment and away you go. But Gabe, you taking away everything. No, I'm not. All I'm simply saying is, I'm not calling you easy. I'm just pointing out the fact that you are sending a message to us as men that you are. I'm not saying you're easy. Listen to me. But you are sending a message that there is a road that they can take to get to you sexually. Now, if you're okay with that, cool. Dismiss everything I've said. But if you're not, don't do that. Don't do that. Now, you may not be of the, we got to get married. You may not be of that level. Okay. But don't do that though. Don't signal to a man that this is the easiest road to me. He takes that road and then you get mad when he takes the road. Fellas, don't be so quick to take those roads. Don't be so quick to take those roads, fellas. Because you have to understand, you have feelings, so do they. And we can try to act like as men, we don't have feelings, but we're lying. I did a whole series on emotion. Ladies, he's lying. He does have feelings. One of the reasons why men develop this never talk to you immediately, don't talk to you again, is because his boy is going to say you caught feelings. Think about how we even say it. Caught feelings. Caught them. So men get trained not to catch feelings. I've said this before. I know men don't want me to do it, but I got to do it. Ladies, if that dude doesn't want to hear about your life, I don't mean, how was your day? Good. Good. Tell me about your job. Oh, I work like this. Oh, that's wonderful. No. You got children and grandchildren. He don't want to hear about that. You got some medical issues. He don't want to hear about that. Maybe you had a tough childhood. He don't want to hear about that. Wow. But he want to have sex with you. Wow. So he don't want to know nothing almost about you. Now, he can have a stimulating conversation about politics. He can have a stimulating conversation about the Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, Capitol Riot, 45, 46. He can talk about all kind of stuff. But when it comes down to you, ladies, and your life and what you're going through and what you're up against, he don't care. He don't ask you about your children. He don't ask you about your ailing mother. He don't even remember. He don't even remember what you do for a living. Or he just never cared in the first place. He don't care that you have a 5-year plan for your life. He don't care that you got medical issues. He don't care that you have a child with medical issues. He don't care that you have financial woes. He don't care that you got education. He don't care that you might actually be religious. He don't care. And you are not easy, but you give him the impression when you're willing to just, well, I don't want to burden him, or, I don't want to tell him, but you're already close. You're extremely close, and you ain't shared nothing. You ain't told him no difficulties about your life at all. And attraction is so powerful that you could be intimate, even though that's not what you want to do up front. But attraction, he's 6 foot whatever, and he's tall, dark, handsome, whatever you like. He got dreads or he's bald head, whatever. So attraction got you going, woohoo, and you haven't even shared anything with him to see if he's even going to care, even in the moment. I'm just saying there's a problem there. Now, again, grown people, you do what you do, but don't get mad. You didn't really tell him anything. Or, gentlemen, you didn't tell her anything. You didn't share the truth about your life, about your difficulties, about your children, about your background, your relationship with your mama, your relationship with your daddy. How are things really on your job? How are things really for you financially? Did you just save up some pennies to be able to take her out to eat? But the truth of the matter is, you ain't gonna be able to ever take her out at no point ever again. And you too embarrassed to, I'm telling everybody's business now. You ain't got no money, and you don't. I've literally talked to women who a dude put all his money together, took her out, wined her and dined her, and then from that point on, they got into a relationship, literally, right? And she was like, you never take me out. He ain't got no money. Come to find out, he didn't even have no job. Come to find out, he borrowed the money from somebody else to be able to, I've literally had women tell me this stuff, that a dude borrowed money from his mama. Listen to me, ladies. Borrowed money from his mama to take this woman out he was interested in, drove his mama's car, and was hoping to have sex with her. You know why? Because at some point, she probably said, at least wine and dine me. At least take me out. So what did he do? He scrounged up his money. He got his mama's car, and he did exactly what she said. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. And I'm not talking about anybody specific on here. I'm just simply saying these are the kind of conversations I have had. And of course, when she found out, she was devastated. But the reality of it is, I'm like, did you have a conversation? Did you find out what his life was about? I tell people in a minute, I said on here, look, I'm poor by definition. I don't care if you don't like that. Okay, don't say that. You're rich in blessings. Don't give me that nonsense. I know what's in my bank account. Don't tell me what's in my bank account. I'm not in a position to be gallivanting all around the country. I'm not in a position to be whining and dining on some constant basis. I'm not in that position. I can't do it. I cannot do it. I cannot. So I'm not out there trying to convince somebody that I'm all that in a bag of chips. I'm not going to lie. I'm not in a position to do that. I just can't. So if that's what ladies are looking for, hey, find some other brother. That's not me. And I'm not ashamed. My life is what it is. But there are men, ladies, you know this to be true, who will lie. Who will lie. And I don't have any personal interest in lying. Fellas, stop lying. Ladies, stop lying. Why are we lying? And that makes sex even worse, because then you lay down with somebody that you think is on the up and up and then find out they were lying. That's just worse. That's worse. Because now you did something that intimate with a person who wasn't even willing to be honest with you. I mean, this stuff gets complicated after a while, but now of course, just stop laying together. No, I mean get married. I mean get into a whole marriage. And the only reason why that's got to be possible is because we're not talking to each other. What are we scared of? If you are 25 years, 25 really, if you're at least 35 years old and older, you should be very comfortable with the conversation about sex at this point. And if you're not, why? I'm not talking about having sex. I mean conversation. You are a grown person. You should be able to articulate your views sexually. Theological, biblical, religious, non-religious, gender, politics, money. We covered a lot of stuff. What is your views on? Let's have a conversation on your views of sexuality and social media. That would be a great conversation. How about your views on sexuality and our children? That's another great conversation. I've had that conversation several times with teachers that I used to work with and other people I worked with in the school system. I've definitely had that conversation, expressed my views. I've had conversations about gender identification. I've had conversations about same-sex bathrooms. Obviously, I'm comfortable with these conversations. And no, I didn't lay with these people. No, I wasn't trying to have those conversations so I could try to have sex. No, I had a conversation because I was interested in the content of the conversation and the person I was talking to. And ain't nobody on my page who can get on here and say that Gabe did not show interest and we had a conversation in what I was saying. Nobody can. Nobody can, male or female. When I talk to people, I want to hear their views, where they stand, what they're thinking, how they feel about what they're saying. That's me. Period. Because what did I tell you 45 minutes ago? One of my favorite pastimes is a great conversation. Now, is there more that we could be said? Of course. But I'm over my time, as usual. So I'm going to let you go. I gave you some things to think about. I definitely want you to go back and realize, what point did I make? Talk. What other point did I make? Keep your private life private. And I recommend be careful even with your besties. If you know that they can have an impact on your life by sharing your business, be very comfortable who you share your married men and women. Good Lord. I know you got somebody you're comfortable with and you can talk about, yeah, my husband last night, we didn't have sex because, this and this. Hey, cool. I think. But be careful. That's all I'm saying. I'm going to leave it right there. Just be careful. You're married and you share with your friend girl or your friend dude about your sex life and things like that. I'm just saying, be careful. I got a friend of mine. Sometimes he'll get into some things about him and his wife, and I just be like, and he'll do it before I can stop him. And he's getting more and more comfortable, so I'm gonna have a talk with him when I see him in a few months in California. So I'm gonna have to sit him down and say, dude, stop telling me about you and your wife, especially since I know her. I don't want to hear that. I don't want those images in my head. I've actually told women, stop. Don't say things like, okay, I'm finna get ready to go get a shower. Men are visual. What are you doing? You are inviting them to think about you in a sexual way. Well, no, stop. At this point, we're too old to stop to tell men to stop thinking about sex. Stop. You're not going to get anywhere with that. It starts when we're teenagers. If you have sons, you know what I'm saying is true. So trying to tell a grown man to stop thinking about sex all the time is stupid. It's stupid, and you're not going to get anywhere. First of all, because we don't think about sex all the time. Because we wouldn't be able to do our jobs if we thought about sex all the time. We don't think about food all the time. Because if we did, we wouldn't be able to do our jobs. And men are high performance individuals. Let's see, presidents of the United States, we run Fortune 500 companies. We do okay. So we're not thinking about food and sex and money all the time. Stop that. But the notion that you can tell us to not think about sex because you don't want us to think about sex is nonsense. Trying to tell your teenage son, don't think about sex. Let me tell me how that works out for you. So if it don't work on a teenage boy, it ain't going to work on a 45, 62, 97-year-old. It ain't going to work anyway. So that being said, again, trust me, it's a lot in this head about this subject because it has a lot of arms to it. This sex has a lot of arms to it. We can go off into all kind of directions and still not even get to the subject itself, right? So understand this is a very serious subject. And again, I implore you, please, I beg you, married, single, have conversations with people you trust, especially if you're married, but have conversations with people not only that you trust, but are intellectual enough and mature enough to hear you and you be mature enough to hear them. I beg you. I'm literally begging you. I would get down on my hands and knees if I could right now. I'm sitting at my desk, but I would get down, and because this subject is huge. Why? Politics and money. Because of politics and money, we got to have real conversations. I have an 11-year-old son who I send out into the school system. Trust me, I am not afraid. I am not scared of this subject. I can't be. Not with that boy, because he's handsome. Looks like his mom. So what do you want me to do? So he's handsome. He's light-skinned. He's almost as tall as me. And he's 11. Yeah. And he's athletic too. Oh, yeah. I got to be ready to have this conversation. And conversations. What am I saying? I got to be ready to sit that boy down. Let's talk. I got to. I cannot be afraid of this conversation. I can't. Because I'm going to leave him to the wolves. I'm going to leave him to the dogs who will eat him alive and teach him things I don't need him to know. And we haven't even said pornography. So that being said, I hope this is a benefit. If it benefited you, share this out on your page. Let's get people talking about it. Let's talk. Hey, if you want to have this conversation again, and we want to bring some people in on it, some information that you'd like to share, I'm willing to do it. This is one of those topics that we really need to do more. And we need to get comfortable. We need to get comfortable. Men and women need to sit down and talk. And there's a lot of people doing this stuff on YouTube. If you haven't checked it out, I've watched a couple of couples who have a thing where they bring a couple friends on the couch. I'm watching last weekend. And of course, I watched enough episodes till eventually there was two men. Eventually it was going to happen. And sure enough, they had two men sitting on that couch who are married. So if I'm not going to deal with this subject, what am I going to do when I see it in front of my face? What are you going to do when it's somebody in your family? What are you going to do when it's somebody near to you, your own child? What are you going to do when it's your grandchild? All right, enough of that. Have a great rest of your holiday weekend. And of course, to those who celebrate, happy Resurrection Sunday to you.